Hello and welcome back to Resolutionary Leaders. Today I have Dr. Benjamin Ritter, who has a book that is getting released in 8 days, and I'm going to read from the About section just to give you a quick taste of who Dr. Ritter is. He has made it his mission to guide and empower others to become confident leaders in their lives and careers. He has over 20 years of executive level professional experience. I'm so excited, I'm talking too fast. In leadership and talent development. He's worked with hundreds of clients one-on-one, thousands of leaders through workshops from all kinds of fabulous organizations that you'd know all the names of. He hosts 2 podcasts. One is Live Fearlessly, and the other is The Executive. And he's got a bunch of passions, and he's also got a small turtle called Squirt, a wife called Tiffany. Sorry, I should have put the turtle first. I was excited about Squirt.
I
Um,
think I think she would want the turtle first. He's 21 now, so
oh
he gets all
God.
the attention. We're
Oh,
actually planning a birthday party, a
that
turtleneck party for him. So
is cute.
we're gonna have some fun.
Let's not leave out Elwood, the scruffy dog, my other cat, and she's the kitty queen, which I understand because I have a cat that's like that. We've got dogs and everything, but that cat is the boss of the whole kingdom.
She's
So,
sitting right here hanging out. She's not
so
gonna
your
leave me alone.
your book is called Becoming Fearless, and I really enjoyed going through it. Before I dive down even more, I'm going to hand it over to you. Did I miss anything? Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. I feel like bios sometimes are just so serious, and I almost want to put some fake company names in one day. Apple Bottom Inc. or I don't know, just something Meow LLC or
Now,
something, and see if people read it on actual air. I think it'd be really fun and funny. But thank you for sharing my mission and a little bit about me. I'm really passionate about helping leaders become the leader of their own career. And I didn't have a very fulfilling first half of my career. It was filled with a lot of disappointments. And so to be able to do the work that I do today for individuals and for corporations matters a lot to me. So thank you for sharing that.
my pleasure. And I did miss the part about how wildly educated you are. You have 2 master's degrees, an MBA, master's in, what's the other one? Sorry.
So I always play along with that because no one knows what an EDD is and MPH is or what entrepreneurial management is. So I
Master's
have an
in
MBA.
public health, master's
Yep.
in public health.
Yeah, MPH, Masters in Public Health and Health Policy Administration. One of my second career or third career, if you want to say, was actually in health policy. And I
Interesting.
was working for the federal government at the time. My main goal was to change the world through policy because I thought it was so difficult to change behavior. Lo and
Mhm.
behold, I was like, no, policy is terribly difficult to change. I'm going to change behavior.
Yeah, I hear that. Okay, this book, let me just quickly jump in. I dog-eared a couple of pages and I thought we could dive down a little bit into first of all, how did you come up with all these nuggets? And how did you pick just these particular ones?
So
60
the,
strategies, right?
yeah, 65, like a random number. So basically this book it's been sourced from almost my audience itself. So I was presenting on LinkedIn every week a Fearless Friday. Now it's every other week. I took those videos and I put them into my podcast, Live Fearlessly. And it was like 2 or 3, 4 minute nuggets of just what I felt was important for people to live for themselves, to live fearlessly, to be their own leaders. And the reaction I got from people was incredible. It was the most engaged I've seen my audience. And so as I kept getting feedback, I was like, there's something here. There's this concept of becoming fearless or living fearlessly in nuggets seems to resonate with people and help them. What can I do with this? And so I took all the podcasts, it was like the 2 years of content, and I transcribed them. I had a little bit of help, and then I scoured them for what's the most important, what relates to fearlessness, what goes into the personal bucket, what goes into the professional bucket. I rewrote them so they're actually book friendly. And that's where it actually came from, because it was like, this is the issue that you have. This is what you need to do about it in 2 to 3 minutes. And for myself learning, I get frustrated when I read a 400-page book and by page 30, I'm done with the book. And I just want to know what I need to do. tell me why it's an issue and then tell me what I need to do. And then I'm going to go take action because I know I'm not going to change who I am by sitting here reading this book. Now, there's some benefit of like reiteration. Like I'm just going to but that's only because it's basically transforming a belief. It's becoming integrated into your normal perception of the world. And so if you have someone that's ready to change, and generally, if you read 65 tips, you're going to read one where you're on the cusp of action. You're like, you're discomfortable enough or uncomfortable enough and comfortable enough to do something about it, to then go make something happen in your life. And so that's really the concept of the book, where it came from, and what I hope it does for the world and for people.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those books you could probably pick up at different times of the year and a different strategy pops off at you. So this one, your timeline for progress should support you, not add stress. That one, I like that one a lot. I think that there is so much pressure to just achieve. These people who get on Instagram or TikTok and they're talking about their days and everything they're achieving. And I'm just like, oh my God, I want to take a nap just listening to you. So I think that one is something that I've definitely struggled with personally. And it's a relief to realize it's a process and we all have our own processes.
The question, what are you rushing for? Or what's the rush? I think I used that way too much, but also not enough, because we all set our own timelines. I do it for myself, every entrepreneur, every career individual, and they put so much pressure on themselves to succeed fast, quick, without delay. But you're gonna achieve something, and then there's just gonna be another thing after that that you're going to try to work for. Like with the book, and right now the book's overwhelming a bit about everything I do, and so I'm being very intentional and focusing on that. Before that, it was a speaking engagement. Before that, it was probably another workshop. Before that, it was probably taking my master class and making it free. We fill our time, so we should enjoy our time in the process, and give ourselves grace to not just enjoy it, but to take the time to really realistically set goals for achievement and success that make sense to us, not just align with someone's Instagram post about how you're supposed to hustle or grind, the car you're supposed to have, the money in your bank account, etc.
And life is the process, right? The destination is, if you're lucky, an old folks' home. You've got to live really for a long time. But so it is all the process. And yeah, I'm trying to rush less for sure. Okay, I'm pulling out another one that I really liked, because this is aligned with something that I'm seeing in the workplace about the quiet quitting, where people get just disenfranchised or just downtrodden and they're just done and they quietly quit. And then you say here, if you are considering quitting, then you have nothing to lose by trying to fix where you are. I really like that, because I think there's so much value for everybody that comes out of doing that. Identifying the pieces of yourself that maybe have contributed to the situation so you don't continue doing those things, but also the gift of trying to navigate your way through what is a difficult situation. And people are often very hesitant to do that. So can you speak a little bit more to that strategy?
Oftentimes, the reasons why someone wants to quit are generated personally and not really based on the environment that they're in. And so if they go to a new job, they're oftentimes after the honeymoon period going to end up in the same place. Not all the time, because there is some toxic leadership in environments for sure. But if we're thinking of quitting, and so generally I'm hired because people want a change, then what you've now decided is that your current job is a playground. It's a place for you to test things out to see if they work. But too often, people are still stuck in fear. Fear of disappointing their peers, their leader, fear of being judged. And this is the funniest thing, fear of losing their job, but they're going to quit. So what do you have to be afraid of? And so I was working with a client, and this is a real struggle. And some people might be listening to this and say, "What? There can't be people like this." And I was working with a client who most of our program was actually dealing with this belief to be able to even do the things that were going to help them create work-life harmony, have proper boundaries, develop a positive mindset around what work really is. Because generally, if you're afraid of losing your job, you feel that your job is more important than you, and that a job is scarce. And when a job is just a, a given of life, they may be more difficult to get at times than others, but generally you will get another one. And so being able to play at your current job might, for some people that are afraid of losing their job, just be something as simple as not going to a certain meeting once a week. Because oftentimes when people want to leave, they're in a negative work environment, they're overworking, or they think they're overworking, because overwork can also be a perception, not a reality. But it's real to you because emotionally you're attached to the work and it's causing stress for you. But just playing could be, oh, you know that 6 p.m. spontaneous meeting that they scheduled at 4 p.m.? Say that you can't go to it and just see what happens. You could even be sitting in front of your computer getting ready to sign on if someone starts screaming and yelling at you if they really want to, but just don't go to it. Say you can't make it and see if there's any negative consequence. And so dealing with our fear most of the time is not one, mentally reframing is something scary or not. So reinterpreting what you think is scary, but also just doing little things, little tests to prove to yourself that there's nothing to be afraid of or that you're okay with the consequences.
I like that. And getting clear also on what those things are. Because if it's because you're feeling burnt out, work-life balance, yes, that's definitely something that you'll probably take with you. So practicing setting your boundaries in a job that you're willing to quit anyway is great.
Yeah, so job satisfaction, and if we're stuck in our jobs and don't feel fulfilled and we're not happy, there are really you shouldn't be in your job sometimes. You should go find another job. Totally fine. But if you're going to quit, oftentimes we can change a couple of things. We can change our social relationships. So stop dealing with the person that's draining you or go try to fix that relationship. Just distance yourself from them. Stop engaging with them. Or if you're going to have a meeting with them, take a half day before you have to go talk to this person, or don't schedule anything afterwards. Start intentionally building your job, crafting it to be more aligned with the things that you need from your job itself, from work. Because if you're searching for another job, you do need energy. Like you're not going to be able to be in an environment that stresses you out constantly, that burns you out, and then think that you can go home and spend an hour and a half searching and having networking conversations and interviewing. You're not going to show up as your best self. And so part of this is not just for you to fix your job, it's for you to actually figure out how to have a life to lead to the next job, to show up in your best light. So social relationships, changing the work that you're actually working on. It could be attending certain meetings, it could be working on certain projects, it could be doing work that really energizes you and challenges you and the work that you're actually searching for. Because if you can craft your job to do more of the work that you're searching for, that you're interviewing for, you'll have more stories to share during interviews. So you actually show up better anyways. And then it's reconnecting with the meaning behind your work. Oftentimes when we're stressed, when we're burnt out, when our job isn't what we need it to be, we get lost in the day-to-day operations of the work itself, the grunt work. And so we're not able to connect to the meaning behind our work. So that's really what I mean by playing and having boundaries and making your job somewhere where you can test things out instead of something that you're just afraid of.
And one of the things that would shift by doing that is when you're feeling victimized by your job, but you shift yourself out of a place of feeling like the victim and not being able to control what's happening to focusing on the things that you can control. And it shifts you to feeling more empowered. And when you're in any kind of job interview, sounding like an empowered human being as opposed to the victim of your circumstances is definitely better framing.
If you're going into interviews, so listen up everyone. If you're interviewing right now for a job and you say anything negative or anything focused on being a victim or blaming anyone or anything that's focused on judgment. So all those like lovely, really great things filled with negativity that you're probably going home from your job and sharing with people around you, you are out. You are not going to move forwards in that job process or that interview. So please If that's where your mindset is stuck and you can't get out of that because of your environment, it would benefit you more to get out of that environment. The biggest thing I work with people on in the job search right now that have been in it for more than, let's say, 3 months, is that frustration and negativity and resentment towards employers, the job market, their past employer, their boss, some coworkers, and that filters into all of your stories. It's very difficult to hide that if you're feeling that. And so when we can take responsibility, and I actually just told a client this morning because they had that mindset around they're owed a job. And I was like, no one owes you a job. You owe yourself to show up in a way that gets you hired. I don't care if that's 300 job applications or if that's 100 networking calls. But the goal is what matters. The steps, we know the strategy to get there.
So another thing, so going to, this is the last one that I dog-eared, although I could have dog-eared a lot of them, but here we go. And there is two sides to this one, and it's start looking for opportunities to give feedback, be specific, discuss the impact of the behavior, and ask the other person for their thoughts or solutions. And then the next page is if you want feedback, ask for it. So feedback is a pet of mine. I feel that so much damage is done by not receiving really good feedback and not being receptive to it, and then not actually receiving it, actually going out and asking for feedback. And I think in that first one where it was saying, if you're going to quit, you might as well try to make this your playground. I think that'd be a great opportunity to really start getting as much feedback as you can. So there's
I
no
was
question.
working,
Please go ahead with feedback.
yeah, and I want to hear some of your thoughts too, because these resonated for a reason. So I haven't even asked you your own stories. But I was working with a high achiever at an organization. This person is on track to be like their next executive, highly sought after. And we were having a one-on-one coaching conversation, and he started talking about how much he's impressed with his leader. And he puts him on a pedestal to the point where he felt that he couldn't reach out to his own manager and ask for feedback, ask for clarity on projects, ask for support, because he thought of this person in such a positive light that he almost felt like he couldn't reach out to them because they were so busy, and he didn't want to offend them, and he didn't want to misstep, and he didn't want to seem like he couldn't do his own job. And we talked a bit about that situation. This was a one-off session. And I was very direct. I said, if this continues, you're probably going to leave because you're not getting the support that you need, and you're going to be in an ambiguity, and you're going to feel stressed. And he's like, yeah, but I can't reach out. 3 months later, he leaves the organization. And during his exit interview, because I followed up with HR and such around this topic, I even highlighted him as a red flag, as someone that might be leaving. He said, oh, my manager just wasn't ever there to support me and never gave me feedback. You created the situation, sir. And so that's where that's a representation of a victim mindset and lack of growth mindset, lack of being proactive and accountable for your own career. But also that if you don't get feedback, you're going to feel stuck in your job. You're going to feel lost. You're going to feel confused. You're going to worry if you're doing things right. You're probably going to overwork because you're not sure what you should be working on, and you're not going to get any sort of recognition. So you're going to end up festering in doubt in a way too, negativity. And so by taking accountability and feeling empowered to go ask for feedback, and if someone says everything's okay, feeling empowered to then say, great, if I was to do something even a little bit better, what would it be? Or I think these are my 3 main priorities. What do you think? And not just letting your leader sit in the "you're doing great" comment, because eventually you're going to get a review, and you're going to need to know what's on that review before you get it if you don't want to be surprised and disengaged and end up wanting to leave. Asking for that feedback is the first step. Now, you can also give feedback to create a culture of feedback, which I recommend in the book, if you aren't as comfortable asking for that feedback right off the bat.
Yes. All very
What are
good,
your,
good
yeah,
advice.
what is it about this feedback conversation about giving and asking for that resonates for you?
Oh, so much of what I do is about creating opportunities for people to get actionable, valuable feedback. Leaders, a lot of the time, people who are in conflict feel like there's a sort of toxicity in their work environment, are interpreting there's a miscommunication. There's been miscommunication, trust gets eroded, and then there's more miscommunication. And to be able to come in and get people on the same page and be able to have people that with the power differential give that feedback up. I don't know how many times you've heard people say, I've just got a horrible boss. My boss is just toxic. My boss is this. There's not that many toxic people. Like there's way too many toxic bosses for it to be that they're just a toxic person. It really, I think, has a lot to do with the inability to surface this feedback and for people to feel safe to give it. So creating that environment. And then I also feel like feedback can be used as a weapon. You can, if you're managing the narrative as a leader and you're the one that's giving the feedback, it can be very destructive. And I experienced that in a job where I was getting feedback that was like, what? Just so not my experience. And I was able to, like, because I had the trust with my team, really sit down and understand what was happening. But I think a lot of people don't have that kind of safety in the workplace. So feedback plays a really important role, you know, up, down, up, all of that. And I have this matrix that I use. It's got 48 behaviors. And this is what I use when I go into companies. And it's all around giving them, it's about positive behaviors in the workplace, like use well-reasoned arguments to support your proposals, or tell others what you like about what they're doing, tell others what you don't like about what they're doing, gracefully accept feedback. Like there are all these different behaviors, and it allows the feedback loop to be non-judgmental and very behavior based. Face up to important issues. I want you to do more of that. I think I'm doing it all the time. So what am I not facing up to? Tell me, like, what important issues am I missing? And it just creates these really good conversations. And I just think that the ability to give feedback in our environment today is really valuable to companies.
Yeah, you ever played the game of if you lost everything and had to start over tomorrow, what would you do? And I was wondering, would you have an answer to that before I give my answer?
If I lost everything today, what would I, how would I start
And had
over?
to start over professionally, what would you do?
What I'm doing?
So I do love what I do, but if I had to start everything all over, I would be a feedback coach. I seriously, because I think it's the easiest thing in the market. It's super niche. It's super needed. Organizations understand what you're doing. They'd pay for it, and the outcomes are very tangible because part of the leadership development programs that I've rolled out included role playing. They like these leadership labs of feedback. And no matter how much I talk about feedback, how much I talk about being specific, talking about the situation, talking about specific behavior, talking about the impact of that behavior, and then getting commitment from the person and almost coaching them at the end of that to create a solution to then now have hopefully a improved outcome. No matter how much you talk about that, until someone does it, you don't really know how bad people are at this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it blew my mind. It blew my mind, the things that people were saying during feedback conversations. But we have to create not just an organization where feedback is accepted or expected, but that we give people the grace for messing up. Like, I personally remember in my own career path, I received feedback from a leader that I didn't agree with or that I didn't feel was delivered properly. And so as the person receiving that feedback, I said, "Thank you. I really appreciate your feedback." And I also felt empowered, though, to say the way that it was delivered, though, made me really uncomfortable. And actually, I feel a little defensive. Is it possible to potentially deliver it in this way in the future? And you can have that coaching conversation with your manager. And honestly, the things that we're talking about, like if they blow up on you, which very rarely is that the case, if it does, then that's just a signal for you to leave. It's a signal for you to get another job. If you can't talk to your manager in a curious and open and positive way to lead to a specific outcome, and you try that maybe once or twice and nothing happens, then you can't fix someone. You can only help manage up with them and help curate them toward help curate an environment that you're interested in. It's a sign that you need to go. And there are jobs out there, I promise you. And people are hiring, and they're going to want to hire you.
And so what I think when I hear that, and something I've realized recently, when you're somebody that has had different jobs, you've had every couple of years you move or what it is, that understanding that there are jobs out there that you can just get another job is, it's a default. It's fine. You feel safe. You're like, yeah, this is not working and I want it to work and I'm not going to be able to change this person. And when you're at a company for a really long time, and this is the group that I think find themselves in ongoing toxic work environments, and you've had someone who's just a natural leader, you've had good managers, whatever it is, and then you get a new manager, but there's a huge amount of loyalty to the company. And you've also been at the company for 15, 20 years, which is still a thing. There's still people who have, for whatever reason, maybe you're in a small town, there's not another hospital that you can go and work in. This is it. Those are the situations that I really have a lot of heart for, because I think they're the best employees, right? You've got these loyal employees and they're willing to just try to tough it out and try to get through it. And they can't, because you can't, like you're saying, you can't change that person. And really, you have to leave. So I've experienced a couple of those situations recently and seen what an incredible negative impact it has on a person's entire life. And I think that thing of make it a playground, going back to the other one that jumped out at me, that's what that person needs to start doing, right? They need to start trying to do things differently within that job and just getting brave.
Yeah, going that playground comment. If you are already checked out, if you walk into work and you hate your leader, if you
Mhm.
and a good indicator of this is no matter what they say, you're trying to find the negative in it. And we get
Mhm.
into this place.
Yeah.
And no matter what, you can't give them the benefit of the doubt. No matter what, you can't lead with curiosity. Then you're done. And so because you're done, you can try whatever you want because now you just have a clock that's ticking away. Like you eventually you're not going to be at this job. It might be tomorrow, it might be 6 months from now. No matter what it is, you're going to leave. And so no matter what you do and no matter what happens, everything like on paper, you will have had that job for the allotted time that you had it. No matter how you act or what people think of you in that position. And so why not now? Because you're leaving. There's no saving it. You can have a little bit of fun and try to learn something that you can take into your next job and forward into your career. And I will tell you, the longer that you're distanced from a position, the more that you forget about what happened in that job, and the more that you see it, your resume, just like anybody else does. And so when you turn and what I mean by this is when you turn your resume into someone for a potential new job, they see the title, they see the company name, they see the date, and they see whatever bullets you decided to share. That's it. They don't got your story. They don't got any negative perspectives. If your boss says anything bad about you to anyone in the job search and you find out about that, guess what? You have a strong legal case to now take against them. So HR and leaders very much keep it within themselves. And so because of that, the only person holding you back is you.
I love that. I love that. And I love that, just your conviction when you feel that way about your leader, where you really can't assume best intentions anymore. You really, and I think of it as, it's like they're just a broken human being. Like you've got to that point where there's something wrong with that person. Like they're just evil or they have a personality disorder. Like you've diagnosed them. You can't come back from that. You're never coming back from that. So the sooner, I actually last just recently I was speaking to somebody about someone on the team that they've really been struggling with. And she said she's just got a bad heart, like a bad heart. And her leader was there, and her leader called me up afterwards and said, she said that to me about 7 years ago about the same person. And she's, do you think there's any way, how do we fix this? I was like, I honestly, I don't think you can. Like that has gone too far. There's no coming back and kumbaya-ing that moment, that relationship. So
We don't have to fix relationships. I hope someone listening to this needs to hear that. You have no responsibility to fix a relationship. You have the responsibility to ensure that you get what you need from your relationship, from your job, and from the organization you're working at. And if you cannot get what you need after putting in the effort, giving people grace, getting curious, learning skills, your job is not to fix the company, not to fix your boss, not to fix your coworkers. It's to say bye.
I love it. That's just a great soundbite. I'm gonna cut that out and put that on LinkedIn. And then all the leaders will be like, don't get that guy around. His job's not to fix us. Is there anything about your book, Becoming Fearless, that you would like to dive into a little more? I think it's important to say I've been reading the quotes on one page, but more on the other page about that quote. So it's not just a book of quotes.
Yeah, which I'd be okay with too, because I feel like if you read a quote, any other, and it resonates with you, you fill in your own context and something just to understand. Like when you're talking to somebody, they're listening and they're interpreting it in the way that they can in the world that they operate. And so when it comes to personal and professional development, there's only so much you can do with the book because you're not having a conversation. And so at times, the reason why sometimes it's less directive, even though it gives an action, is because I don't know what's going to work for you. I know this action will work if you try it, but you need to integrate it into your life in a way that serves you best. And they seem simple, but a lot of the leaders I work with, there's even one example of just engage in meetings. And
Yeah.
it's just like someone's, what do you mean engage in meetings? Speak up. Stop multitasking. Ask someone a question. Share something in a chat. And if you're in person, even more so important. But we're in such a lovely world filled with opportunities because that we work in a remote environment. Some people say, I can't connect with anyone, or I can't get promotional opportunities. Like, well, engage in meetings. And it's just, look at the opportunities that are in front of you. And this builds off of this concept of being proud of how you show up at work. If you want to make a difference in your professional life, the best thing you can do is take advantage of the opportunities that are in front of you instead of looking for the next chance. Make the most of where you are while working towards where you want to go. A lot of people that are frustrated at their job, we were talking about this just now, just like this fact that you're in this terrible work environment. How do you make it valuable to you? Because either way, you're showing up to work tomorrow unless you're not. And I know we're talking a lot about the professional life. There's some personal life stuff there, but they intermingle to say you have the cards that you're dealt in front of you, and you're all in because you're betting everything every day on this hand. You have to play it almost like it has to become a winning hand for you. And I hope people realize that. I hope we can empower some people to do it. That's the whole purpose of the book.
And I feel that what you just said about it's not a conversation. I love the idea of using this book in a similar way, picking out the quotes that jump at you. And if you're in a coaching relationship, taking that to your coach and say, hey, I want to talk about this. Or this jumped out at me. How do I do it? Or what would this look like? And it's a great entry into the conversation.
Yeah, hopefully, and I say this in the introduction, you pick one thing that resonates with you and then you go work on it. Everything else can fall into the wayside. Just go work on it. You can read the book from front to back if you want, but generally the real transformations are going to happen from action. And better yet, go research the topic. So if you really want to learn how to give feedback, go listen to a podcast on giving feedback. There's a ton of them out there. Go buy a book on giving feedback. There's a ton of them out there. I don't even care if they're good or not. I just want you to surround yourself with that topic in your life. Skill-based learning is how you're going to transform. It's how you're going to evolve. So often in personal and professional development, we try to do all 65 strategies at once and we get overwhelmed. And I hope that people do use this book in that way, where they do pick one thing and try one thing out. Or even just in your life right now, if you're working on multiple things, work on one. Especially if you're unhappy at work. If not, you're just adding more stress. Going back to the first quote that you said. Our to-do list or our plans really need to serve us and not cause more stress for us.
I always say that when I'm coaching people and they're like, I'm so sorry, but I can't. And I'm like, this relationship should not be increasing your stress. Like the reason I'm here is to help you minimize your stress. So you can always reschedule if it's creating stress.
Yeah, there's like a little goodness from stress. Oh, you uncomfortable? You're doing something you don't really want to do? Okay, let's do that. Overwhelmed? Pulling your hair out?
Uncomfortable's fine. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm always going to be like, no, go ahead, be uncomfortable. But yeah, it's about removing the friction and the things that are getting in your way of the forward momentum. So
Yes.
work that sorry, do you want to say something?
I was just going to say, sometimes people, as a coach, they want me to tell them what to do. And that has a very low success rate. People need to decide what they need to do for themselves. And so as you're reading through this book, you need to figure out how to integrate that into your life in a way that serves you, that makes you a little bit uncomfortable, but not completely, that doesn't completely align with who you are. And so if anyone's trying to tell you what to do, something that did not make it into the book, this was a tip that I cut out a decent amount of them because they just seemed a little bit too broad, a little bit not related to fear. But what one of them said, you need to make the information that you read work for you. So very often we listen to a podcast, read a book, whatever it is, get advice from a friend, and we're able not to accept it and able not to integrate it into our life because we've seen it as somebody else's advice. We need to take advice and say, if this was to work for me, if this could change my life, how would it be integrated? How would I integrate this into my day-to-day? And we skip that step. We're like, oh, great advice. Maybe I'll do this one day. Instead of say, what about this advice really could work for me? And what would that mean about one thing that I would change? And that's like the one step that people tend to miss and why we don't hold ourselves accountable.
A really good point. It's a really good point. I've had lots of those. That's great advice. And then just haven't done anything.
Next.
Thank you. I really appreciated your insights and grateful that I have this book in my bookshelf and can pull it out as the days go by. And best of luck with the book release. It's in 8 days. How can people find you? You're becomingfearless.com?
Yeah, actually, liveforyourselfconsulting.com/becomingfearless. But if you go to lfyconsulting.com or liveforyourselfconsulting.com, you'll find it. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Dr. Benjamin Ritter. I'm based in Austin, Texas. Send me a little note, a message, a connection request. Sign up for the email list to potentially win your free copy or to get your free download for creating a career that you love. And overall, just let me know that you heard me on this podcast. If anything, pay it forward, share this with a friend, leave a review wherever you're listening to this show. That's probably the best thing that you can do to pay it forward other than connecting with me.
Thank you, Dr. Ritter. Have a wonderful afternoon.
You too.